to another episode of Coding Conversations with Kevin.
And I'm TC. How's it going, man? How you doing? Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Thank you.
Man. It's been all right, man. What's been new with you?
Had that little break in December. It was nice. It was nice to just like not do anything coding related or interview related. Like I've said before, I kind of felt like I was hitting that wall and just getting stressed out for no reason. And looking back, I'm thankful that I did take the time to just like decompress and figure myself out because I wasn't enjoying that grind anymore.
Yeah, exactly, man. Interestingly enough, man, I made a post about interviews on LinkedIn I think a couple of days ago, and it's almost at 500,000 views. So a lot of people are really interested in this subject. They have a lot to say on it.
Nice. Yeah. What's the majority of the like comments like on those posts?
The majority agree that the interview process is ridiculous. Like, especially we got a lot of people from India who really agree. They've been kind of reaching out to me and telling me like, man, as bad as it is over there, it's like you have to be a competitive program almost,
Yeah.
It's like really tough.
Yeah. Like I can't imagine because everybody like is so saturated. The job market is saturated. And even if somebody says they want like mid-level or entry level, like the years of experience or whatever, or the level of knowledge that they expect you to know isn't necessarily entry level, right? You're still gonna have to know like data structures and algorithms and have a strong grasp of whatever framework that they're gonna quiz you about, right, during the interviews. So yeah, man, it's really competitive. It's tough.
Yeah, like when I got in about 5 years ago, it wasn't like that. Like I came in a little bit after the sweet spot because you remember like back then, like companies were almost like begging for bodies to be in chairs and doing development. Like they would, you just have to have a little experience. They'll bring you and they say, okay, we'll train you. But now it's like you gotta come in as a mid-level developer just for a junior role.
You have to hit the ground running.
I still had like a bit of a tough time getting in. Like, I had to put in probably like 100 apps. It wasn't super easy, but it's not like what y'all are going through now with, they're hammering you with the DS and algo questions.
Yeah. You were talking about how when you first were interviewing and like how you had to do like 100 applications. You remember when like we first got introduced to each other, and I was trying to get a job in LA, and it was tough. Right? I'm applying. I think I was applying to like 3 jobs a day or something like that, and I wasn't getting anything. It's hard for an entry level person to get a job because they don't have experience, and then like it's like, how do I get experience if somebody doesn't like take a chance on me? And like I would talk to other developers, and they would say like, well, you just got to find that one person that's going to take a chance on you. And I feel like nowadays things have shifted because it's not the same as like going into an office, because now everything is like remote, right? So like that whole hand-holding process, or like teaching somebody or showing somebody how certain things work, is not as easy as it was before. Like
it seems like I made another post trying to tell just developers in general, like you have to keep your visibility up, or else you're going to get kind of washed out amongst like the countless other applicants. So just us doing this podcast, they can kind of attach the face to the resume, like, okay, she's good at React.
And I think that's the thing, right? The market is so saturated that you have to stand out, and the only way to stand out is to find that niche, right? Find that niche that makes you different than the other hundreds of thousands of applicants who also know React. because
Yeah.
it's easy for somebody to go on React.js and look at the documentation and say, okay, I understand state and I understand life cycles and X, Y, and Z, but
Right.
to build an application or to contribute to open source projects or to like take that extra
Mhm.
step that says like, hey, I've I have experience doing open source work or have experience helping
Right.
on a startup. Like that'll make you shine a lot better than just I went to a boot camp.
Yeah, exactly. And they kind of want to see like you're interested in coding beyond a job. Like you're not just clocking out and okay, that's it.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, yeah, man. Yeah,
interestingly, I'll go
go
ahead.
ahead.
I was just gonna say, like, interestingly enough, man, like prior to me really starting to post on LinkedIn, I never had like one of the big companies reach out to me. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
But just due to different posts, I've had someone from like Facebook,
Hmm.
someone from Coinbase, someone
Nice.
from Oracle, like all these big companies just kind of like reaching out and saying, "Hey, you want to interview?" And that's kind of like what even got me my first job. Not necessarily doing these videos, but having a programming blog, like something that makes you different. Like I know with
Hmm.
you, like you didn't just apply; you actually reached out to people on LinkedIn and said, "Hey, I'm interested in this job."
Yeah, yeah. And I got that advice from another developer who I had met. He was a TA for the coding boot camp, and he was just like, if you apply directly through the front door, you're just gonna be in a pile, right? Those
Yeah,
applications just go into this giant pile, and you need to reach out to people that work at the company that you're interested in working at. Like, ask them about what the interview process is like. Ask them about the work-life balance. Ask them all these little things
mhm,
because you don't want to go through this long process. It's an investment. It's a time investment. I've been
right,
there with last year, right? With like Lever and those other companies where you go through hours of not just the interview, but like studying even, right? All that
right,
time studying algos and data structures and doing leak code, like that builds up to something. You're spending all this time, and sometimes it might not work out, and you wanted to figure that
yeah,
out immediately versus you know a week or 2 weeks worth of time invested, and then you find out, hey, this isn't me. This isn't for me.
right. Yeah, like so yeah, I know you said you've been doing a lot of studying of data structures and algorithms. Like when I came in, that wasn't really a requirement. So I feel like
Mhm.
this is something newer. Like a lot of companies are seeing what Google, Apple, Facebook, etc. are doing and kind of copying them,
Right,
but
but
they're not
you know why they
necessarily
do that though.
right. I think because they kind of want to avoid being on the hook for like, okay, this developer comes in, we spend all this money on him, he doesn't know what he's doing. The hiring manager is kind of on the hook. So if they could just say, hey, we did the same thing Google and Apple did, you know, so we
Hmm.
couldn't have known that this guy would turn out like this. It kind of like shifts the blame from themselves to, okay, the big boys are doing it and
Hmm.
it didn't work. So what else could we have done?
Right. Yeah. It I think I, I think that it makes sense, right? That a lot of companies are looking for DS and algos because it shows how you think. It shows, like, if they give you a problem that involves like sorting, right? You have to sort, all boy names, go in front and all girl names going back. Okay, you have to figure out, how to sort that, and then the interviewer might throw something in like, once you have like a solution, quote unquote, working, they might throw like a curveball and say, okay, now make it loop forward and backwards or something, something weird that just to throw you off. Um, I think the benefit of those type of questions, even though they might seem like, oh well, I'm not going to be doing this in real work, right? It shows how you think under pressure. Like, it shows, okay, if I give you something that you may have not seen, right? How do you respond to that? How do you respond to a situation that isn't clear to you? And how do you figure out the how to get to the end goal? You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, the it's good that people are using data structures and algorithms nowadays, but uh, I think certain companies should also realize that when they set those bars, they're gonna lose out on potential candidates because some might not have the experience or knowledge of DS and algos. Like they might be strong in Angular or React, but then when it comes to
Right.
data structures and algorithms, they might be weak, and then they might get rejected. Like they might be a
Yeah.
great candidate, but their data structures and algorithms are weak. So it's like a pendulum almost.
Right. I think say they gotta kind of match that to the job. Like, what are they gonna be doing on the job, and this is the kind of data structures and algorithms that we need at this particular job. Like, don't just come with a grab bag. Oh, there's some random questions off leak code. Try to figure this out. Like
Right.
because me and Brian, we never really had to spend time studying that, so we'd
Mm,
be filtered out by that process. But
right.
at our jobs, we're each developers where like we're the only developer holding up certain front end projects. So
Hmm.
a lot of qualified people are getting cut out by this kind of process. Like, there's nothing wrong with asking those questions, but it has to be in a context of what you're doing. Like, I was talking with this junior developer, and I think he applied to a front end position, and they gave him a question like, rotate this matrix. You know what I mean? That's like,
Right.
okay, it's like a linear algebra thing. Like, if he was doing image manipulation or 3D programming or whatever,
Hmm.
or 2D programming, like making a game, that would be appropriate. But like for a React CRUD type of application, that doesn't really make sense to me.
Right. Yeah. And I won't say all jobs are like this, right? I've definitely applied to
Right.
jobs where they'll give me a take home assignment, and the take home assignment would be
Mhm.
like a CRUD application, right? Okay,
Yeah.
here's a button, make the button open up this on click, and then it'll be a form, and have fill out the form and save the results of the form in state and submit that to an API and like print the
Mm.
response. Like I've definitely gotten those type
Right.
um, take home assignments and tasks. But I've also read that some people don't want to do take home assignments, right?
Yeah.
Just give me an interview. It's like, well, the take home assignment is the interview, right? Because
Yeah.
sometimes I would go from the phone interview to the initial first interview, and then I would get a take home assignment after that, and then
Mhm.
the take home assignment would be the review of or the next interview would be the review of the take home assignment that I did prior. So
Right.
uh, I think that in 2022, like developers need to just be prepared for anything and not worry too much about the outcome, because if you put too much, like I would say, like if you invest uh, yourself into like, okay, this is the company, this is it, this is the interview, like, okay, I'm gonna
Right.
land this position, and then you
Yeah.
fail, it's gonna hurt, because sometimes
Yeah.
you might, like you said, it might be a grab bag of whatever you get, and if
Yeah.
you're not prepared for binary search trees or graph traversal,
Right.
what are you gonna do?
You can't take the failure personal. You just got to kind
Ye-
of learn from it and move on. But I think
yeah,
the
man.
big thing is the problem is it's such an immense time waster. Like, there's like 5 rounds of interviews.
Right.
Like, there should be maybe like 2 or 3 rounds. Okay, no, if you're high up, like, okay, you're like a lead or something. Yeah,
Hmm.
you could do more. But if you're just like a mid-level junior or whatever, why can't you decide at 3 so you're not wasting their time? You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree with that. I agree that the level of the developer, right, mid, junior, senior, tech lead,
Mm.
if they want to get crazy with rounds, they can. Um, but I also think that companies are just trying to filter as much as possible, and sometimes the filtering process might be a little too strict, and you're gonna lose top
Right.
candidates because of that.
You,
Um,
you know what my issue is like, do companies really need the best of the best? I don't think they do. I think they just need somebody that's decent that can get the job done. Like the problem with the best of the best is okay, if I could pass your interview, I could probably pass this other company's interview. I
Mm-hmm.
could pass like 10 other companies' interviews. So what's going to end up happening? A lot of these companies like, oh man, we made him an offer, but he didn't accept it. So you just wasted five of your employees' hours chasing this guy who you know is the best of the best. And do you really need that to do the crud application? You need somebody decent he can learn, and you know what I mean. Like you don't
Right.
necessarily.
Yeah. To speak on the whole like chasing the best of the best and wasting 5 hours, uh, you know, that's where like most companies aren't just interviewing one candidate at a time, right? They're interviewing more than one, they're multiple candidates, whether it's two or three, or maybe more. So, um, there's always that plan B, right? Like, okay, it's the second place is this guy over here. So, um, that's just potentially, if person A doesn't accept the offer, then there's person B. But if you don't want person B or person C, you might just pass on those other two people and keep looking. So, um, I feel like companies aren't just interviewing with one guy, and they might not view it as like wasted time. Yeah, it's a bummer that you're not going to get your top tier developer. Um, but yeah, I would say a lot of places are fighting for the best of the best. Like look at Blizzard. I think we talked about this as well. Like
Mm,
Blizzard is having trouble keeping employees because they're just leaving for other companies, like better pay. Their HR department is better. I guess better, and they don't have to go through all the negative stigmas from Blizzard. Uh, yeah, man. I would say if you're the cream of the crop, like if you get picked over somebody else, or you have a bunch of offers on the table, there's going to be a lot of companies that are going to be disappointed that you didn't join their team.
right. Like what I say like it's kind of like wasted hours is okay. Like to interview you, if it's a 5 round process, I got to take 5 hours of different employees' time just to talk with you. And if I'm doing that with multiple candidates, that's like a lot of time that I'm pulling them off of actual projects. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Shorten the process to like 2 or 3 rounds so that okay, you can immediately know okay, this ain't
Right.
gonna work out. So you're not
Yeah.
like taking up a bunch of time and oh hey sorry no job for you,
Hmm.
but you
No, that
just
makes
took off
sense.
like 2 or 3 days. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, that makes
Like
that makes sense.
save
Yeah.
you as a candidate, save your time and respect your time, and also save the company's time because those
Right.
hours that they're pulling people off of projects could actually be used for
Right.
something more productive.
Right. Because you don't want to just be like, all right, well, 5 hours deep, 7 hours deep, or 2 weeks.
Yeah,
2 weeks go by, and it's like, well, wasted 2 weeks. And I hear
and
you.
I actually did this guy. I was talking to the guy on LinkedIn. He told me like he was interviewing for a game company, and it was like a month long, like several months long. I think it was like 5 or 6 months long interview process.
Whoa,
And after all that time, they just kind of rejected him. So
that's
it's it's
crazy.
it's, it's like some of these companies they kind of take advantage, but I guess it's also up to you as the candidate to say, "Nah, I'm not going to go for that. I'm gonna interview with other companies." Sometimes
Yeah,
we have the right to eject if we don't like the process that's about to come.
yeah. Like I don't want to continue with the process. Yeah, I had to do that with what company was that? I forgot the name of it. Started with a
Is
P.
it Hulu maybe?
No, it wasn't Hulu. I forget the name of it, but we had a nice initial interview. We vibed a little bit as far as like personalities and just like talking and not really feeling like it was less professional and more like casual, I guess you could say.
Right.
not too casual, but it was definitely like uh, uh, easier to navigate than a it was semi-professional, I guess you could say. So, and that was cool. And then they wanted to proceed me to the next round, but at that time I was like, you know what, I'm just burnt out, I'm tired, and I just
Yeah,
responded to the message like, I can't do this. Like, I can't do it, not because I don't want to, but it's, I know myself, and I'm not
yeah,
up, I'm not I'm not on my A game, and I'm not gonna try and to force myself to do this take home assignment. I'm just gonna pass.
right. Okay. How did they respond? Like, thank you for letting us
Oh
know.
yeah, yeah. They were like, "Thank you for
Okay.
letting us know. We really, liked talking with you, and when you're ready, hit us back up."
Yeah, I think they respected the fact that you didn't like waste their time and just end up bombing the interview.
Yeah, yeah, and I think it comes that reflecting on last year, right? Those are the interviews that I did, right? The 5 or 6 interviews that I did. Out of all of those, one thing that I can take away from all 6 or some odd of those is like having a personality like took me
Yeah,
further than knowing the data structures and algorithms, and being not stubborn but like persevering past the, oh man, I bombed this interview, okay, let me keep studying my algorithms and keep going. Okay, I
right.
bombed this, I didn't do too hot on this, but I learned this, so let me keep going. Like, the interviewers will see that, and I think when they notice that, like, even though you might not get the job now, what I'm saying is like 6 months from now, somebody might hit me up
Yeah,
from the company, be like, hey, you interviewed with us. Um, Speaking of which, like Lever, right? Remember that interview with
yeah,
Lever, and
yeah.
I got to the like somewhat final
Right,
rounds or whatever. What did they say? Like, the feedback was like, he's not like L2 level, like the mid level that they
right,
want, but
right.
he's like right there. And then
Yeah,
um, the recruiter told me, okay, hey, you didn't hit the mark, but if we ever get an L1 position, I'm definitely going to keep you on file, and
hmm,
I'll hit you up, and you don't have to go through the whole process. You can just skip to the
right.
end. And so I think it's like planting seeds almost, right?
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
you take those interviews as like experience, you plant those seeds, and then
Hmm.
you come back later and reap the, who knows when you'll reap the harvest. But the whole
Right.
point is that you attempted, you tried,
Yeah,
and
exactly.
you don't take those interviews personally, because it can be tough. It can be tough. It's like, man, am
Exactly.
I enough? Am I not enough? And you could really mess with your head.
Yeah, it's almost like in that particular interview, you had a checkpoint. Like you didn't have to start the whole game over. Like, okay,
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And to speak on that, it's like leveling up, right? I'm playing Final Fantasy
mm,
7. I'm playing Final Fantasy 7 remake right now, and it's like you're gonna reach a point in an RPG where you have to grind. Okay,
yeah,
I'm not strong enough. Like, these enemies are like super strong. This boss killed me with one hit or whatever. That's kind of like getting an interview that you're not prepared
hmm,
for. Like, rotating a matrix. Okay, this boss just killed me with one hit. All right,
right,
well,
right.
I'm gonna start the game up again. I'm gonna turn on my computer the next day or next week or whatever, and I'm gonna go to Leak Code, and I'm gonna look up, okay, how do I rotate a matrix? Just
Yeah,
just just to be
exactly.
just be curious enough to learn how to rotate a matrix. You might not use the shit, but the whole point
Right.
is you now you know.
Yeah,
You know,
what people need to do is like on the interviews, write down the questions that they ask you, and then
screenshot it.
research them.
Screenshot
Like
it.
they can after a certain amount of time, there's only so many questions. Like you pretty much have all the
Uh huh.
the majority of the questions they can ask you.
Yeah.
You research answers, boom, you're
Yeah.
there.
Yep. Exactly. I think there's maybe like, I think I made a list last year, something like 15 or 17 different types of algorithm questions.
Hmm.
And sometimes certain topics uh, flow into other topics, right? Like,
Right.
for example, like sorting, right? You can learn. There's a bunch of different types of sorting, but you could learn all the different types of sorting in a month if you're really focused on it, and then
Yeah.
that bleeds into like that helps you learn like arrays and how to manipulate arrays. The runtime complexity of manipulating an array or sorting or searching, and then
Yeah.
like if you go into like binary search trees, right? Okay, that's just an
Mhm.
array, but every child or every parent node can have up to two child nodes, right? So, for example, if you have an array of three items, if that was a binary search tree, the first item that item zero is your parent node, and item one and item two are your child nodes of that array. So
Mhm.
it's almost like zero, one, two, and then like on that means like the third index or the third item would be the second parent node. So you
Mhm.
can kind of see like even though it might seem like holy shit, what's a binary search tree? But in reality, the data structure is just a array, and you're
Right.
just following the nodes in the array to get to whatever to get the result. So
Right.
it might seem the point I'm trying to make is this: it might seem like a lot, but really it's like a small amount of topics that they could possibly quiz you on. And if you have
Yeah.
enough little experiences with each of those topics, you're going to crack an interview eventually. It just takes
Yeah.
experience points.
Yeah. I think it's like, with failure, you also have to have the mindset of adapting. Like, okay, this is where I made a mistake. Like,
Mm-hmm.
it's not like you keep on doing the same thing over and over and over, and you keep on
Yeah.
failing each time. You gotta grab little pieces and say, okay, I need to step by game up here.
Yeah.
So, like, with that being said, like, how do you feel like you've progressed from like when you first started doing the interviews to the last? Like, do you feel like you're
Uh,
more well spoken or like?
um, I'm definitely, I definitely feel more well spoken as far as like
Mhm.
articulating my ideas, my thought process. Um, I'm just slow on getting code out, and
Right.
that was some feedback that I got was that okay, he asked a lot of questions, but I would love to have seen more code from him. And
Mm.
so, because there's only so much time in an interview, right? There's only like that.
Yeah.
There's that 1 hour marker, and you don't want to rush the whole introduction part. You kind of want to like have a sweet spot. Like let's say you you spend 15 minutes on introductions, and you make sure that you stay within that window because any extra
Mhm.
time that you spend outside of that is eating away at your algorithm time or your data structures time. And
Right.
so I would say like I sort of have what's the word I'm looking for, like a script like that I go through
Yeah.
in my head, like hi, my name is Terrence, da 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 da,
Mhm.
whoop whoop. I know this, I do this, like I have this project on the side, and I'm doing a podcast. Okay, cool, nice to meet you. Then let
Right.
them go into their introduction, and then we go into the coding portion. Um, I would say like the anxiety and fear that I had of like interviews or like getting the
Mhm.
initial phone call and the initial first interview and setting all that up. That's easy. It's
Right.
the it's that what if of the okay, am I gonna get what kind of question am I gonna get? Is it gonna be searching or
Mhm.
sorting or
Yeah.
graphs or trees or whatever? That's always the coin flip.
Right.
Um,
Right.
because there's everybody has their strengths and weaknesses, right? It's like working out. Like I could have a strong upper
Yeah.
body, but a weak lower body. And if it's leg day, man, and I know my legs are weak, man, this is gonna suck. But I'm gonna do it
Right.
anyway.
Yeah.
Um,
Are
so
you
so
gonna
so,
put on
so
shorts or are you gonna squat?
yeah, yeah, exactly. So like I think like reflecting on last year and the interviews that I went, it I would say like I'm a lot stronger as far as like knowing how to study,
Yeah.
knowing what I need to study, knowing where my strengths are at. And even though I took that month off, I feel like I have that muscle memory where like
Yeah.
if I
Yeah.
was to like jump back on it, or not even not if, but like when I get back on it for this year,
Mhm.
it's like I'm going to go so much further because I took that time off and reflected
Right.
and just let my brain sort of just mellow out.
So if a junior developer was to ask you like, okay, what do I need to study? Like, what are some of the topics that have come up in the interview? What should I focus on? What would you say?
Um, you have to have a basic understanding of all of your data structures and algorithms, like sort like arrays, stacks, queues. Like I could probably go through the whole list, but the whole point is like there's knowledge out there, there's books out there, right? Uh, I wouldn't say like just study one particular thing, like study all, look up each data structure and make sure you understand that inside and out, and then start getting experience with whatever framework that you're interested in, that either a company that you're interested in uses or is popular right now, because that way you can have as many options as possible as far
Hmm.
as like company applications are concerned, right? If
Right.
you don't want to study Visual Basic and learn Visual Basic, because that might limit the amount of jobs that you can apply to. If there's 1,000 jobs for React and there's only 10 jobs for Visual Basic, like it helps to just know React, because you'll have more opportunity as far as applications go. And then lastly, get experience using Git and trying to contribute to open source projects.
Right.
I find that like reading somebody else's code through like open source, or like reading projects on those type of like frameworks that use the frameworks that you're interested in, or languages that you're interested in, it helps it helps you understand like not just your code, but reading somebody else's code and wrapping your own mind around that. Because I'm sure you have to like look at somebody else's code from time to time and try to understand what they wrote.
Like one of the things that I do is, like if I have a book, I'm reading a programming book, and I have a source code thing on GitHub. I'll download all the source code and then go through each and every example and type it all out for myself, and then see how all of these individual pieces interact with each other. That really helps me in my understanding.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
yeah, I would also give them the advice of like practice your articulation. Maybe get a use your phone or whatever, record yourself, and see how you like respond to these different questions. Like what you could even do is create a recording, and on all the interviews you've been on, try to think of the questions that you were asked and create a recording of like each question spaced about 2 minutes apart or a minute apart, right? And then play that recording, and then you once the question is asked, you respond. Like it kind of helps you get a smooth flow of speaking. You know what I mean? Like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, what did you think about? What do you know about React lifecycle methods? Like, that question plays. Then you give a minute answer. Then the recording will play the next question. Then you answer. It kind of gives you that smooth flow, so you're not sitting there like sounding stumped. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like speaking is actually a skill that a lot of people don't really realize it, but the more you speak, the better you get. It's kind of like the advantage of this podcast.
Yeah,
Like when you first started, you were kind of like shy, more quiet,
yeah,
and as time went on, you found your voice. But you would have never found your voice if you never came on and did the podcast. You know what I mean?
right. And that leads into something, a personal goal for myself, as far as like this year. Like I'm turning 20, no, 22. I'm turning 33 this year.
Right.
Um, and I'm thinking to myself, like, I'm there's moments where I wish I would have spoken up, right, or just been more
Mhm.
social. And I've noticed that, I'm sure other developers are similar, where they're shy, they're quiet, they're very introverted,
Yeah.
they're very to themselves, unless they find somebody that has similar interests. Like at my job,
Yeah.
there was I had a coworker who was into video games and anime and stuff, and we connected over that, and then that sort of uh, daisy chained into me meeting everybody else into the company, and that's cool. But if I don't think
Mhm.
if I met that guy, I either A, it probably wouldn't have happened as quickly, or B, I'd probably still be I'd probably still be within that sort of turtle shell, like I like to call it.
Right.
And so, personally, for this year, I make it a point to say hi to people. Like if I'm on an
Yeah.
elevator, I say hi, or if I'm passing somebody, on the street, I say hi. And
Mhm.
regardless of how they respond, the I feel like the point is to recognize that I'm afraid of this, right? I'm afraid of
Right.
whether it's a rejection or like just saying hi, and I'm gonna just do it anyway. And
Exactly.
so, yeah, I would recommend anybody who's like listening to this or watching this, like if you're afraid of getting rejected, like, oh, this job seems to be too they're looking for too much experience, or I don't know this or I don't know that, just approach and make that first
Right.
step, and
Yeah.
don't
Don't
worry
worry
about
about
the
failure.
outcome. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
You know what? Interestingly enough, man, I think people were kind of nastier as kids. Like, if you failed, you have all the kids surrounding you, teasing you.
Hmm.
But now the failure isn't what we think it is. Like, um, your recruiter is not going to call you after you fail and say, "Hey, you loser, you should have did better."
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah,
So it's kind of like we have this terror of failure, but like even I had a kind of like I was hesitant to post on LinkedIn, hesitant to make these videos. I'm just kind of like, no, let me just go ahead and do this. And you know the stuff that I thought was bad, nobody really said, "Oh man, that's awful." You know what I mean? I've got a lot of love and support. So just by putting myself out there, I opened myself up to a lot of opportunities. Just like you said, it opens up doors,
yeah,
but you just have to get out there and do it and not worry about the result. Like most people are not going to be as nasty as you think.
right, exactly. And even if you do meet nasty people along the way, what do they call it? You dodged a bullet. Like
Right,
you're not
exactly.
gonna if a company is nasty towards you, you dodged a bullet. If an
Yeah, you
interviewer is
want to work
nasty to
with.
you,
Yeah,
you or the HR or project manager or whatever, you dodged a bullet. Like don't look at it like, man, I failed that interview. Like no, you weren't a fit, and
right,
sometimes it be like that, and don't take it
right.
personal. Um,
And
yeah,
yeah, I kind of think like you remember you was talking about Final Fantasy before.
yeah,
You got to kind of look at the interview process as a game, like a grind. That's you doing your battles. It might not be the
mhm,
most fun, but at each one you get an experience. Your skill is
yep,
getting better
yep,
somehow. You know what I
yep.
mean? So don't look at it like, "Oh, I failed. This was a waste of 4 hours of my time." No,
Yeah,
like no,
yeah,
you even though you so-called failed, you learned like what these interviews consist of, and if you have the mind to adapt to where you failed, you can start passing interview after interview after interview,
yeah.
and
You, and you
it'll pay
learn
off.
the. Go ahead.
Or I was just gonna say like one of the I actually failed this interview with the streaming company Tubi.
Hmm.
Yeah, and I think they had me doing a live coding exercise, and
Hmm.
while I was doing, I wasn't speaking, I wasn't saying like, okay, I'm doing X, Y, and Z, and they gave me that feedback.
Hmm.
So I actually took that knowledge with me to the next coding interview with this company that I'm at now, and this company actually pays more than they did, but I used the knowledge from that company for this company, and I got the job. Like
Yeah.
I took that failure, see where I failed, and adapted, and it helped me get the next opportunity. So
Yeah. Exactly.
it's
It's like and I got 2 points to make on the whole RPG um side of things, right? If you look at it like a boss, right? If you look at interviews like a boss fight, you're gonna
mm,
get to a certain there's certain points where there's certain phases of the boss, right? You can get to the second phase or the third phase or the final phase of that boss, right? You might get to that point where you I almost beat the boss, but then they use some spell that just completely knocked out my whole party,
Right.
right? Um, it when it comes to like failing that way, right? And
Mm-hmm.
especially in this day and age, what do most people do? They go on YouTube and they see how do I beat the final boss of
Yeah.
Sekiro? How do I beat the final boss of Hollow Knight? How do or final boss whatever? And you could watch somebody go through the process and beat this boss, and you can
Mm-hmm.
see their setup and everything or whatever else that they show, the tactics or whatever. So uh, when you fail an interview, or if you have a tough time on an interview, look up somebody else's experience with the type of problem that you solved. You can easily
Right.
go on YouTube and be like, how to rotate matrix, how to
Yeah.
sort binary tree, how to um, how to look up shortest path to whatever. And there's resources out there. You can even go on leetcode.com and look at the study guides, right? People will say just got offer from Amazon, Microsoft, and Facebook or whatever, and they'll talk about their entire journey from start to finish between that one company or all companies that they got offers
Right.
from, and they'll say, "Here's what I studied. Here's how long I studied." And it's possible. So the guides are out there.
Yeah. Yeah. Until the interview process changes, like you just got to kind of adapt and
Mm-hmm.
learn and do what you got to do.
Yeah,
So
and I'm
I
not
think
saying
it's
like don't go ahead.
yeah. I think that's that's just reality. Like if things aren't how you want it, and the change isn't happening fast enough, you just got to do what you got to do.
Yeah, and you can't want it quick. You can't want
Yeah.
the result quick because it's not a quick process. It's not a quick turnaround time. If you're coming out of this is what I'm looking for. If you're coming out of coding boot camp, and you haven't applied to jobs during your time at that coding boot camp, it's going to take time to get a job. I had somebody hit me
Right.
up last year, thinking November, and he was like, he was from LA and he's having a hard time finding a job, and he's like, I'm thinking about quitting my job to apply full time and study full time. And I said, that is a terrible idea because and I gave him an example of myself. It's like, okay, even though I have a developer job and I have
Mhm.
experience, I'm even having trouble cracking, that cracking that
Right.
ceiling to get to that next level, right? Or cracking that plateau. So, uh, yeah, man, like the interview process, like the job application process takes a long time. It's not gonna be easy. And I think
Right.
a lot of people these days, they want it like, okay, I went to the coding boot camp for 12 weeks or 24 weeks. Like, where's my job?
Yeah.
And,
I
and,
think
it, and it's not like that.
the expectations shifted. Like originally the code boot camp almost like guaranteed you a job once you leave, but the market got saturated, and now it's like, oh, I paid $10,000, $20,000, and a year later I still can't find a job. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think people have to adapt. They have to, like you say, they have to study those basics, but they also have to increase their visibility, like do something different. Like what
Yeah,
makes you stand out,
yeah,
you
you
know?
gotta stand out. Yeah, man.
Like
Yeah.
have you, like when you talk about the fact that you do a podcast, as any other interviewers or recruiters say, "Oh, hey, that's cool." Like,
Uh, Maybe like one or two.
mhm,
It's not like we sort of diverge into like a whole another
right,
conversation about it. But I do think that that's one thing that probably separates me from a lot of other developers, as far as like not just not just being a minority in tech, right? As far as like being African American, but also like, hey, like, okay, he has a interest outside of tech that is sort
Mm-hmm.
of related to his career, like
Right.
that some people see that as like a good thing.
I think
Um,
you'll really reap the benefits once this podcast starts to take off. Like, kind of like I was spending years on LinkedIn just posting random programming things, and you
mhm,
know, people here and there, I get like 3 or 4 likes or something.
mhm,
But as of recently, all of a sudden, my likes have exploded for whatever reason, and people have actually been reaching out to me, providing me with different opportunities. So you know, sometimes you don't really reap, like you say, you don't reap the fruit immediately. Sometimes it has to
mhm.
grow. You
Yeah,
know how we talk about Kevin Samuels, like he was kind of like this low key cologne reviewer until he had that
right.
one viral video. Then boom, he
Yeah,
just blew up.
yeah,
So I think sometimes you gotta do the work without expecting the reward immediately.
yeah, yeah. You can't. A lot of people these days they want fast money. They live a
Yeah,
fast lifestyle, especially in the African American community,
yeah,
and it's never that easy, right? When you see celebrities, right, like LeBron James or the late Kobe Bryant, or Beyonce or Jay Z, or maybe even let's not even talk about like just African American like celebrities, but like I forgot the guy's name. Peter Dinklage, right? Peter Dinklage.
hmm
I was reading his story. Like he was like couch surfing. Like he had, very little money. Like at a certain point in his life, and he just took an opportunity that came to him. And that one opportunity, even though it didn't seem like it was the best, but he's like, you know what? I'm taking this opportunity, and
right,
that sort of snowballed into a career for him. Um,
exactly.
and the point I'm trying to make is the people that you see that are in the spotlight is because you know I'm not saying a lot, not maybe not everybody. Let me clarify. Not everybody
Mm,
that you see in the spotlight, right? Because there's definitely some instances where somebody may have uh, just had access to easy money that sort of catapulted them
yeah,
into that limelight. But there are, if you look at certain celebrities, that people that put in, there's are examples of people that put in the work, but it's a
hmm
lot of work. Like I mean, a
right,
lot of work to get to where like to that final result where they can just sort of
right.
have a nice lifestyle.
And that's the kind of the issue is like when we look at these celebrities, we only see the end result. Like we don't
Hmm.
see Michael Jordan spending countless hours. He's the first one to the gym, last one to leave. We
Yeah.
just see him in game time taking over. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
And I think
Yeah.
with in our community, like the youth, they kind of see the end result and they say, "I want that now." Right? Like because
Yeah.
I was recently watching this interview. It's this upcoming rapper out of Dallas, Texas. His name was Nardo Wick, and he was interviewing. And in the interview, he said, "I'd rather rob than work a 9 to 5."
Wow.
And what was really disappointing was not only that he said it, but the people that were interviewing him, there were two older black people. Nobody said, "Hey, man, why do you think like that? I don't think that's good." They said, "Hey, I feel you." They were laughing. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So, oh, I feel that. Oh, I understand
Yeah.
where you're coming from. So no, he didn't. Nobody gave him correction, and that's kind of like what I feel with a lot of these youth. They have a lot of poisonous messages coming at them, but nobody's really saying, "Hey, that's wrong." That's kind of
Yeah.
like one of the reasons I want to do this podcast. So like they can see people that look like them, telling them like, "Hey, man, just take your time. Don't expect a reward immediately, but if you do the right thing, it's gonna pay off."
Right. Exactly. Then and that's just an example of like okay, uh, the message, the the loud message, I guess you could say, or that is perpetuated is like okay, coding jobs are lucrative, and
Mm-hmm.
join a coding boot camp and get a job starting at X amount of dollars or like
Yeah.
6 figures. Um, Let me think what else, like, or maybe not even like just advertisement, but if you look at the like the salary ranges of jobs. Okay, if I apply to this job, okay, they have a position for 120 to 140. Okay, that's cool. Yeah, man, it'd be nice if I can get if I can get that, that'd be cool.
Right.
But it people just see that as like, okay, every 2 weeks I'm gonna make this much. But how much
Yeah.
work are you gonna be able to are you gonna have to put in to get
Yeah.
that? It's not just like let me just wake up, sit in a chair, turn on a webcam, attend my stand-ups,
Yeah.
copy and paste code from Stack Overflow, and then boom, I get paid.
Right. Yeah. You
So
have to put the work in. Yeah.
yeah, because it makes you stronger, man. Like it why it's almost like if I could just take a pill and be jacked, would I do it?
Yeah.
Right? Like you lose out on the discipline that it would take to to eating healthy, for
Right.
to go into the gym, to being disciplined to go to the gym and exercise and stretch and stay hydrated. Like all those things play a factor. And if you were to just take that shortcut to get whatever you wanted at the blink of an eye, you 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 short sell yourself.
Yeah, you miss out on the journey. It's like a video game where okay, let me put in this invincibility code,
Hmm.
and it might be fun for 10 minutes, but like man, this is boring. There's no challenge. Like
Yeah,
you just do whatever for 10 minutes and cut it off because okay, I'm not actually progressing. I'm not seeing myself grow.
yeah,
So
exactly, exactly, man. You're not seeing yourself grow. It's boring. It's
so
boring.
like what does the growth process look like for you? Like what do you do after work? How are you ensuring that you're growing in the industry?
Well, so I've started working with a uh, on some GitHub projects. I started working on
Mm,
some GitHub projects, and that's given me experience like using Git and refactoring repos and pushing features and just studying outside of work. And it doesn't have to be like a ton of time, right?
right.
It could be an hour a day, and that hour a day builds up over time. Um, and so yeah, for me, it's been just like looking at my weaknesses. Okay, what don't I know with the stack that I would want to learn? Okay, in MongoDB, let's learn this today.
Right.
Let's learn this in React, or let's learn this in CSS. And I try to learn like one new thing
Yeah.
every day, and make it so small that it's easy to digest. If that makes sense,
Right.
like like if I don't know what the should update lifecycle does, right? Okay, let me Google it. Let me go read the documentation.
Yeah.
Okay, it's outdated. What do they use now? Okay, they use hooks for this. Okay, cool. What? Let me see how to use that, and then I take notes on it. So I have this Word document that's just called React, and I
Mm,
have uh, I have the like lifecycle methods or whatever else. Like I have all
yeah.
the documentation that's online, but it's saved on my computer, and
Right.
it's also tied to a GitHub repo. So what I do is for that day, I'll pick something else online and say, okay, this is how to do this in React, like
Mm,
image gallery in React, and I have like the component copied and pasted in there, and then I have comments on
right.
what this component does and how it works. And like long story short, like when I feel like turning documentation into your own words and having like versions of that like saved is going
Yeah.
to save you so much time. Because if you you have code for it, and you could just pull it from your documentation, and then B, if it ever comes up in a conversation, I'm ready to talk about it. I could say, okay, you know, okay, you want me to do this take home assignment with React? Okay, cool. And then if we review it, okay, here's what I wrote, here's how I did this. I used this lifecycle method because XYZ,
Mhm.
ABC, yada yada yada. So yeah, man, like I'm I feel like planting my seeds now on January
Yeah,
1st and then looking back on them a year later, I'm definitely gonna see some fruit
yeah,
bear.
yeah. Like what I do, man, is like you said, I try to learn something new every day. But you have to make your learning digestible. Like you can't say, "Oh, I'm gonna study 4 to 8 hours every day."
Yeah.
After work, you get burnt out. Like you
Mm-hmm.
remember, I told you I was gonna do the 30-day challenge where I'm gonna release a video and
Mm-hmm.
also release a graphic every day. I was able to do that for like 10 days, but
Yeah.
after a while, it's like, man, this is too much. So when you start overloading yourself, you're not going to be able to accomplish that goal. So make it reasonable, but
Yeah.
don't beat yourself up when some days you just don't feel like it and you skip. Just get back, just get back on track. But
Right.
like for me, I'm trying to take my learning out of the crud type of space because of like a lot of people going there.
Mm-hmm.
So I've been learning more so like math, like 3D math, like linear algebra, etc. You got to kind of go to where people are afraid to go. You know what I mean?
Mm. So
Because
let me ask you
that's
about
where
that thing.
the money's going to be.
When you say people are afraid to go, what do you mean by that?
Because a lot of people they kind of stay away from math. It's like, oh, this is like scary. This is like too complicated. Like if
Mm.
you're the go-to guy that's handling things that nobody else wants to handle, you know what I mean? You could pretty much write your own checks. Like say, I'm just, the metaverse. That's the next so-called big thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the metaverse is 3D. So if these new programmers, they're scared of 3D math or doing 3D, but I'm the guy that
Mm-hmm.
really knows it. The companies are going to come to me and say, "Hey, we want you." You know what I mean? And in
Yeah.
that way, you could pretty much write your own checks. Like, and plus, math is something that's used in virtually every field. You know what I mean? Some form of fashion. So that's like one of those skills that once you learn, it just benefits you no matter where you go. And I kind of
Um,
I kind of think it's like with you, like learning data structures and algorithms. Like, it may not be the most fun thing, right? But you can always
mhm.
take that with you with whatever you're coding. You know what I mean? It's not something that's going to be like, okay, this framework's obsolete, so your knowledge is trash.
Right.
It's like this is like base fundamental computer science stuff that's going to last me no matter what job I go to. So I
Yeah.
think that's kind of like where I'm gonna start going in 2022. Like the stop focuses as much on frameworks and more so on that base knowledge that I can take from job to job.
Yeah. That's it, man. That's the key. That's the key. Because frameworks tomorrow, React could be
Yeah,
nothing, right? They could come out with uh, T-Rex JS, and it might be the
yeah,
fastest, baddest JavaScript framework. I don't know if that's a real JavaScript framework. I hope not. But they might
right.
come out with like something just
Yeah,
completely brand new, and everybody might, oh, we got to switch to this. We need
yeah,
developers with 10 years of experience in this, but it just came out yesterday, right? But
right.
like the point is like start when if you think that get those fundamentals right. So get the
Yeah,
fundamentals down. The language is not so important, but I would say if you're going to find a language, or you're going to focus on one thing, or you focus on a front end engineering or back end engineering or full stack, like just get comfortable in whatever it is that your title is, and focus on that, because when you hone your skills in that area, you give yourself less room for error. Because
hmm,
if I say I'm a full stack developer, okay, now I open myself up to front end
yeah,
questions, back end questions,
yeah,
and data structures and algorithms. If I
right.
say I'm an Angular developer, I've only opened myself up to Angular questions,
Hmm,
JavaScript questions, maybe some unit testing, and data
right.
structures and algorithms. But the whole point is like, I'm focusing solely on
Yeah.
framework-based questions, data structures and algorithms, and not just saying I'm a JavaScript developer. You can
Yeah.
give me any framework, you can give me any library, and I should be able to figure out my way around it.
Right.
Like
Yeah.
that is like that's a huge like circumference or area of knowledge that I've opened myself
Yeah.
up to. But if you
Yeah.
just say I'm this, I know this, and this, and I'm open to learning whatever I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. It's important to limit your scope, especially as a new developer, because like you said, like you don't want to, like me personally, at my job, they want full stack guys, but I'm primarily the front end guy. You know what I mean? And I don't want to really jump into full stack because every time something happens on the back end, I gotta jump into that. If something
Mm-hmm.
happens on the front end, I gotta handle that. You know what I mean? Like what a lot of people don't know is specialists get paid just as much as full stack developers. You know, what makes me distinct is at my company, technically everybody's like full stack, but they're primarily ASP.NET core developers, mostly like C# developers who can kind of dabble on the front end.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas like I'm like one of the few front end guys, you know what I mean? Like
Mm.
if something goes wrong, they usually come to me like, hey man, how do I fix this? And just that right there, that makes me incredibly valuable. Whereas if I was like a full stack guy, I'll be competing with them. I'll be competing with guys with like 8 or 9 years of ASP.NET core experience.
Right. Yeah.
So yeah, don't look at specialization as a bad thing.
Mm-hmm. Because that helps set you apart. That helps because if
Exactly.
they look for if somebody's looking for a specialist later down the line, you're their guy. You know,
Exactly.
uh, and don't look at. I would say for any juniors starting out, like man, like what'll it be like in like 3 years or 4 years or 5 years? Like when I get my when I first set my foot into the door, like because time flies, man. Like it'll
Yeah.
be 3 years at my current company in March, and I look back and I'm like, okay, I definitely see improvement,
Mm,
um, but I don't. Uh, I didn't look at my first 30 days there, 90 days there, and say, okay, in 3 years I'm gonna be here,
right.
right? I didn't look at the top of the mountain and be like, all right, when I get to the top of the mountain, I'm gonna have this, I'm gonna be doing this, I'm gonna be doing that. It was just you just let sort of life or let the knowledge sort of just come. Like yeah, you have to
Mm,
pursue it. You have to pursue. Like, I'm not saying like don't stay on your studies, but like stay open to the experience and also like just put yourself out there to
yeah.
continuously learn. And then when you get to the second year or third year or whatever, you're gonna be better off than like setting up expectations for yourself and then in 3 years being like, well, why don't I have this? Why don't I have that?
Hmm. Right. Yeah, so I would say definitely make a game plan and have an idea of where you want to go because it matters. Like you can get obsolete in this industry like real quick. Like, oh, I picked the wrong tech stack and now I'm stuck on some legacy technology.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to break out. You know what I mean? Because like even with
Yeah.
me, React is kind of like, oh, okay, this is the new hot framework. And I'm Angular.
Mm-hmm.
Even though I have a year of React experience, I have to relearn React if I really want to get a lot of these new jobs. So, it's these technologies, they change quick. So you have to be able to learn quick. This is a learning industry. That's what a lot of people
Mm.
need to understand. Like you have to learn how to learn. Like
Yeah.
balance yourself mentally. Don't overload yourself. But you have to spend time outside of work, increasing your skill set.
Yeah. Definitely, man.
Yeah, we're past the hour, so I think this is a good point to end.
Yep. This was a good first episode of the new year.
Yep, happy New Year's, everyone. And y'all have a good one. Keep on tuning in, like, share, and subscribe.
Peace, people.
Peace. All right, we go.